Yeah. Thank you. Well, the thing is that I always want to talk about SVG, and it's always kind of boring talk about SVG because it feels like the time passes, it's less and less easy to impress people with the crazy 2D graphics. Nowadays when WebGL is so popular and people recreating icons in CSS and stuff like that. So I'll try to do my best. So just to bring some attention, the SVG is capable of some things CSS is not. And this is already a reason to use it. But it's also not just stupid things. It's also capable of doing some nice things, like, well, I use this font. I think it's free font. I found it somewhere on my computer. And being Russian, everything I found on my computer is free. So, what I don't like about this font, who will tell what is not good about this font? Kerning. It sucks. Let's fix it. I wouldn't fix it on other slides, sorry. But, yeah. So, what I'm trying to say, you don't know SVG. I not necessarily mean you don't know the spec, but of course you don't know the spec, but I mostly mean that most people nowadays I see don't know what to do with SVG. They kind of avoid it for no particular reason. I think it's a bit of hipster culture, It's not fashion enough, maybe we should change it, change the name. I'm suggesting responsive graphics. It's kind of hip. People will use it. It sounds good. It's responsive, scalable. Who cares? It's responsive graphics. Responsive vector graphics. Vector too scary. It's very math-like. People don't like math. Let's call it just responsive graphics. RG. No, we should put X there somewhere. I don't know. Anyways, if you know me, you probably know me as the creator of Raphael. And I created Raphael, it looks like already a long time ago, in 2008. It's like, oh my God, suddenly feel old. And recently I released another library, the Snap SVG. And some people ask me, like, why you did that? Like, why you give up on Raphael? How can you? Well, the thing is, I didn't really give up on Raphael. I just honestly don't have time to do all the changes I want to do to Raphael. I'm just being busy. The reason why I decided to actually suggest to make Snap is because people use Raphael as a guidance what this SVG is capable of for some reason. Then they compare it to Canvas, then they say Canvas is faster, and then they come up to the wrong decision, and then I just getting mad on these people and really want to punch them in the face. Because it's like, and people tweet about everything like, oh, Canvas is so much faster. Don't tell me this in face. It's not faster. Yeah, just not faster. So how it came back? So when back in 2001, when I worked in some small company back in Ukraine, we need to implement this kind of thing in the browser. 2001. Netscape 4.7, for those who forgot. And, well, firstly, I suggest to do it using Flash. And that was the first and the last time I used Flash. We implemented it, but when you put 4 controls like this on the page, the CPU was 100%. And no matter what we do inside Flash, it still was 100%, and it wasn't very acceptable. And Flash wasn't yet standard de facto, so it was built for intranet, so we could dictate what the plugins you're going to use. So we decided, okay, let's not that tell the users don't use the Flash plugin, use the Adobe SVG Viewer plugin, and try SVG. And when we switched to SVG, the performance was amazing comparing to Flash back then. And since then, I don't like Flash, and I like SVG. So back then, in 2001, that's where I learned my JavaScript, because I have to code the JavaScript for all the SVGs, and you need to write inside the SVG files the code, and you need to do lots of heavy DOM operations, which I was not able yet to do in Netscape or IE4. Shit. It's even painful to remember this. So yeah, that's how, like, people asking how you learn JavaScript. I learned it on SVG. Sounds ridiculous, but true. So, talk about SVG. The most powerful thing of SVG is path. You can create very complicated paths in SVG, and you could describe pretty much any shape with the path syntax. So what is the path is? So basically, every shape is a set of points. It's divided in segments. If you ever draw in any vector design tool like Illustrator or Illustrator, then you know. It's pretty the same. You define the coordinates of these points and you get the result. On the first, the path string code in SVG look very daunting, but it's actually quite simple to read as long as you learn. And you don't really need to read it, honestly, unless you can read metrics code as Neo and see the picture. I don't know, I play with SVG for, since 2001. I still can't read the path string like that and see the path. But you could write it sometimes. When you create the simple paths, it's useful to know these commands. But most of the time, you just import the path from some vector graphic tool. So what is it like? The first command is m5050, which means move to 5050. It's x and y. And the next command is draw line to 100, 100. So L means line. Next command is bigger because it's cubic Bezier curve. It has more coordinate points to draw the cubic Bezier. Then it also has relative, like the small letter means it's relative. So this one means draw horizontal line 100 pixels from wherever you are. And little z means close the path. SVG is simple. I wish. By the way, the whole presentation is obviously SVG. So it's running in the browser, it's one big SVG. I, on purpose, didn't use any gradients and just use one picture at the end. No images, no gradients, pretty much, just for the sake of it. I don't know. The very powerful element in SVG is use element. It's also very hated by the SVG implementators because it's very hard to implement. Fortunately, I guess nobody implementing SVG in the browser in this room, so we would say it's an awesome element. It's awesome because it lets you to create a live copy of an element. And by live copy, I mean it's actually connected to the previous copy. It creates a shadow DOM kind of structure. So you have original, you have a copy, you change original, copy also changes. It's very useful. It gives you the ability to draw just one element and quickly create millions of it on the page. And they all controlled from one point. You still could style them different ways, but you should remember that you can't change whatever you did with the original. So if you put fill red, that's it, you can't change fill. But if you leave fill untouched, then on use you could change fill. Like for this example, when I create text, I actually create text without fill, and by default it's black. And then I hide the text, and you could only see the copies, and each copy has different color. So yeah, well, because web direction is code, I put some code in my slides. This is the code. It's SVG. So you can see here we have a circle. It should have an ID. And then we have a use tag which references the circle. And it has fill and stroke. And in this case, fill will still be white because the original circle has a fill, but stroke will have blue. So we have one circle which is just white, another circle which is white and has blue stroke. And it will be shifted 50 pixels to the right because it has X. It also has Y property as well. Groups. Groups are awesome because you can group things. Like, I'm standing here, I'm just one person, there is a group of you sitting over there, which means makes you suddenly more powerful than me. But I'm not afraid. Groups in SVG is a little bit better than just a container, which is already pretty good. So you could assign event handlers to the group instead of assigning to elements, do other stuff. But you already know this all from HTML. It's almost the same, except group is not visible, and when you apply something, it works pretty much like use it, applies it to all the children of the group. With one major exception, some properties are applied actually to the group as a unit, like opacity. So you can see in this example we have two circles, red and blue, on the left and on the right. The left circles are united as a group, and the right circles are just circles. And I do some animation with them, and I change the opacity to 0.5. And in first case, I will change opacity of the group. In second case, I change opacity of each circle. As you can see, the right circles, you can see that where they interact, and you can see this, let's say lemon shape, which is kind of purple. And on the left, you can't see this shape. You could actually see it through the blue circle, and the red is kind of moon shape like. That's because it changed the opacity of the whole group. It could be very, very useful. Could be very, very annoying. It depends. And code. I don't know, should I read code? You should read code. Seriously, like, the SVG is so simple, it hurts. It's just like HTML, but even simpler, because it's graphics, it's much more visual, it's easy to understand. I could talk about all the different elements of SVG, but seriously, it's not big deal to learn. I'm pretty sure you're all capable of this. I mean, you don't know it yet, but you don't know SVG, as I said, but you can learn it. It's not hard at all. What the cool thing is that you could grab any group of element, any drawing pretty much, anything, and define it as a pattern. By defining a pattern, just define the view box of this, and say, okay, I grab this and make this a pattern, and I apply this as a pattern to other elements, which I also could make as a pattern and apply as a pattern to another element. You see, like this. Some people call it Inception. I call it the Russian doll. So the point of this is that patterns are still alive when you apply them. So even they already the patterns, they're already inside the element as a background, sort of, right? You could still animate their properties. You could still change the elements. You could do some crazy stuff with them. It's very, very useful, and you could create very amazing effects. You notice that there is a little, like a stroke around the pattern text, which is actually transparent. Do it with your CSS. And this is the code for pattern. Basically, it's almost like a group, except it has the view box and x0 white height and pattern units, and probably have to have an ID if you want to reference it later on. You could have one element inside, or you could have as many elements as you want, groups, whatever. Masking and clipping, very powerful feature. You can mask and clip. I don't know. Masking is getting to the CSS as well. It's funny how people look at some CSS features which actually came from SVG and think like, oh, that's so new, so revolutionary. Transformations, CSS transformations, wow. Exist in SVG since 2001. Oh, CSS animations, wow. Yeah, if you look at these guys who actually wrote the specs of animation, CSS transformation, CSS masking, they all came from the SVG background. It's all there already. So when the CSS guys get excited about this cool stuff, and like, I work with this for a while already, I don't know. It's actually in the web, it's already there, it's available. Just don't use it because, I don't know. So it's all about, all the different aspects are kind of boring separately. The fun happens when you combine them together, and like combining pattern and masking and filters. So you can see here, for example, we have a text and we have a rectangle. Rectangle has rounded corners, of course, and has a pattern, which is basically just red lines. And what I did also, I make a use of a text, put stroke on the use, and use this text as a mask on this rectangle, which creates this hole around the text. And I also applied the blur filter on it, just for sake of it. And the text itself, despite it looks like it's white, it's actually a pattern, the same, but the thickness of line is so big that there's no hole. Now if I animate the pattern, I could make a nice dissolving effect on the text. Then I could animate the stroke, then I could animate the color. I mean, I just made it up. Maybe it's useless. But I think it's pretty awesome. And you can do it now on your browser, and you're just sitting on your ass and do nothing. That's pretty sad. Text on the path, the most favorite feature. I never use it in real life. I never have a use case for text on the path, but everybody wants text on the path for some reason. I don't know, maybe people just get excited of text being, ooh. And we run. It's a powerful feature, yes, I agree. It makes me happy, but I don't think it's useful. I mean, I don't think it's very useful, but it could be. Again, this is something which is relatively hard to do with CSS only, so far. Obviously, it will end up in CSS, because people like CSS because CSS is fashionable, and SVG is not so. And I don't know why, but the web industry is full of hipsters. No, honestly, like people, all these conversations about let's use this because this is awesome. I use Rails and Sus, and why? Oh, because it's awesome, man. Is it like conversation of two engineers? Seriously? Awesome, it's cool, and because Paul Irish said so. Sometimes I feel like, I'm back in kindergarten. It's like all this, yeah. People forgot what they're actually doing. They're actually building stuff. They're actually trying to find the solution, the best solution, not the most fancy solution, not the most fab solution, Best solution. And SVG or Canvas, should I use SVG for this or Canvas for this? How about you can use both? My goodness, I can use both, yeah. Why this should be enlightening for this? Like, it's a tool, like anything. You can do a lot of things with SVG which you can't do with CSS or with Canvas. I mean, you could draw anything with Canvas. I mean, it's just math. Good luck. In your case, it will be maths, not math. So this is a code for the text path. You have text element, you have text path element. Seriously, you don't need to remember all this. Just use snap. I mean, if you don't use snap, it's your problem. You can use CSS in SVG, right? So you can add the class names to SVG elements, and then, like with HTML, you use CSS. You could put fill inside. It's so funny, like you have a div and you have background blue, and then you have fill blue, and then you could apply the same class to HTML elements and to the circle, and you have blue circle. And you change style sheet, and your circle became green as well as a div. So you can embed the SVG graphics, and you could make it in the color scheme as the rest of your site, or anything. Obviously, CSS is awesome, and HTML in the SVG it's even more awesome. And I mean, it's not like CSS or SVG. It's never or. It's always the only people who can unite them nicely win. Like, you don't have to do everything in SVG. I did everything in SVG for this presentation just because of sake of presentation, but you don't have to do this. You could nest SVG inside SVG. The real Russian doll. Why would you do that? Well, many reasons for that. One of the reasons that the SVG container is containing all this stuff in there. It has their own view box. You could change the style of the SVG without losing the coordinates. So all the coordinates remain small, but you can resize the picture. Let's say I have an SVG, which is inside contains lots of icons. But actual view box of SVG is just one icon. And it's small, it's 32 by 32 pixels, which is relatively small. But because it's SVG, I embed this SVG inside this big SVG. And now I can pop it up, make it big and nice, make it pretty. And then I could actually access this SVG and move it around and make sure that I show the different icons to the people. But for you, it looks like there's just one icon. I could use it, reuse it, change it, do all the different crazy stuff. I just love these icons. Not the less important thing is transformations. As I said, the CSS transformations was originated in SVG, and the only difference, there are no 3D transformations in SVG yet. So only 2D transformations, but it's still pretty cool. So you could do the transformations, and I wish to tell more about transformations, but thankfully Raphael already talked about transformations, about different coordinate systems, so I don't need to talk about this. You already know everything about transformations, and matrices, and funny stuff. Just math. Or math. For fun of it, I actually implement the robot arm. So it's much better in SVG than in Canvas. No, true, because in SVG I have a group. So I explain how it's done. So I have a group. In group, I have circle and rectangle. And group, nested, which have circle and rectangle and triangle. And then I rotate the group, the first group, which rotates everything. But it doesn't rotate, it's changed the coordinate system, right? It rotates the whole coordinate system. Then I rotate the nested group, and then it's rotated relatively to the previous group. So I don't need to go forward and backward. So I just rotate this, and I rotate this. And as you can see, again, like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? How it will collide? Ah, it's colliding. So again, like, to make this effect, again, I use the masking. So I draw the big thing, then I reuse it, then I apply it as a mask, and I put the stroke on, and that's why I have this hole inside. Because if I need to draw this line, actually, that's much more math than I want to carry. And obviously, I create all the sliders in SVG for no reason, really. But that's how it is. So I want you to sort of, the whole point of my presentation is not to teach you about SVG. I know it's an impossible task because you don't know a thing about it. My point is, I want you to learn SVG. I want you to use SVG. I want you to stop being afraid of SVG as something, oh, it's too big, I will learn it tomorrow. You're working with the web, you already have SVG on your belt. It's not something, you're just ignoring it. And ignoring SVG, it's basically is, renting 4-bedroom house and just lock 1 bedroom and leave another 3. Yeah, you can do this. It's less to clean, but seriously, you're still paying for this 4-bedroom house. Conversation about Canvas is faster than SVG is total bullshit. Canvas faster than SVG is like saying that knife is faster than a sword. Yep. Would you go with a knife against a sword? I wouldn't. But yeah, it will take time to learn how to use sword, and using sword is complicated because you could much easier damage yourself, but it's not the reason not to use it. So if one thing you can take from this presentation, apart from the pretty pictures, go and learn SVG. I will come and check. I want people to use SVG. Like, I don't care, I wouldn't get money for this. I want it to flourish. Because back in 2001, I look at the SVG and think like, this is so cool, the technology is so awesome, you can create such amazing stuff. In 5 years' time, web will be so pretty. Damn, guys, do something about it. It's very easy to operate. It's the same. It's like you already operate with HTML. You're making this crazy, and people are making these crazy icons in CSS, like, look, I did this amazing thing in CSS. Do amazing thing in SVG. There is plenty of things to impress. There are plenty of ideas. When I'm building these slides, I was like, I could do this, or that, or that. I can't do all of this. I have to choose something. I don't know which one is better. It's all personal taste. It's all... Damn it. It's a great tool right here, and people tend to forget about it. People tend to run on the hype. Somebody say it's slow. Somebody say its performance is bad. Somebody say... Test it yourself. Yeah, its performance is bad if you do crazy things with it. If you have like 10,000 bolts running around on the screen, and you did it in SVG and Canvas, Canvas is faster. Well, of course Canvas is faster. If you do 1,000 divs moving around, it will be slow too. SVG gives you infrastructure. SVG, every element you draw is actually fully functional element of the page. It has its own DOM behind it. It's backed up with all the DOM infrastructure. Of course, if you create 1,000 circles, you will have 1,000 infrastructure DOM nodes, which all can be, you can put event listeners, you could put other stuff, blah, 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 blah. You don't need to worry about this. You need to worry about me coming and checking, did you learn SVG or not? It annoys me to death that such a technology is totally forgotten. People talk about Canvas, WebGL. WebGL, you can do this stuff in WebGL. Seriously, guys, how useful is WebGL on the standard web page? Yeah, for game development, for stuff, for things. But people do stuff in WebGL they should do in SVG. People doing some crazy calculations in Canvas. Well, it's so easy to do it in SVG. I mean, SVG has lots of benefits. When you print SVG, it's awesome because it's always sharp. One guy was complaining to me he has an issue with his boss. He was complaining that his logo is not sharp when you print. He just replaced logo with SVG and everything was perfect. This is one of the ways. There is other ways to solve it, but everything you draw in SVG will be perfect if page is printed. You should learn it. You should master it. You should overwhelm the world with how amazing you could create things. You don't have to create things just in SVG. Mix it up. Mix it with Canvas. Mix it with video. Mix it with HTML. Mix it with robots. I don't know. Conquer the world. I don't know. Do something. It's very cool technology, and I see no reason why it's not used. And the performance of it is very good performance, actually, even on mobile. But it will be better if you will use it, because it's like a chicken-egg problem. Browser vendors don't invest into SVG because nobody uses SVG. Nobody uses SVG because browser vendors don't invest in it. You start using SVG, create demos, create things. You could create pretty badass things with SVG. I was showing just a small thing, just a small fraction of what you can do. And it's only, as I said, on purpose, I didn't use any gradients and any images. But I want to show the last demo with an image. So, like this is a circle. Thank you. While black square is not and black circle is not. And we could apply, I have an image and I could apply the image as a mask to the circle. And then I could use a filter to transform the colors and invert the image. And my point is even black circle could be very badass if you treat it properly. And I want you to open your laptops, well, straight after we have a party, of course, and after party it's usually better to open laptops, and just try and play a little bit. Just make circle bounce, make circle run, add some animations to elements, play with masking and clipping, and suddenly you could find out that this problems you had before in the design, which was impossible, suddenly is not even possible, but actually very simple. Don't limit yourself to rectangles, because web is rectangular and we used to be rectangular. Not rectangular, no. With SVG you could create any shape and this shape will behave just like your rectangular div. Even Canvas is rectangular, damn it. It's not really give you ability to create the map which you could click through. It's still rectangular. And talking about accessibility and actual web, the web. Canvas is not actually part of the web. It doesn't exist in the web. It's a script. Canvas tag is empty tag. The SVG actually could be scripted. You could create dynamically, but you could have a predefined SVGs. You could load the predefined SVG. You could then do something with this SVG. You could, hey, all you need to do is put your shit together and learn the bloody thing. Because if you don't know SVG, you can't call yourself a web developer. Call yourself web enthusiast. This is technology which exists on the web stack, and if you not own it, you suck. Yes. Monkey balls. So own it. Do some amazing stuff. Because I assume you come here on the conference because you want to create amazing stuff. You're not just all these, guys who are just sitting there fixing bugs and being happy that, okay, I fixed the bugs, they're done, where is my beer? You want to make web better, you want to create amazing things, you want to impress your colleagues, impress yourself at the end of the day. This is your key. The SVG give you the wings. You just need to be serious about it, you just need to be patient about it, and that's it. You could be this first guy who did something, and you'll be, oh, this is the method of you, or you. And people will know you because you was the first. Some guy would come to me and say, like, oh, Dmitry, you're so lucky you built the Raphael. How you come to this idea, I thought of this idea from 2001. And I was honestly thinking somebody else would build it before me, and nobody did. And so I did. And you can build something awesome too. And the only difference, some people saying oh, Dmitry, you know JavaScript so well. I'm pretty sure there is people in this room who knows JavaScript much better than me. The only problem that nobody knows about this. And to show this, you need to create something amazing, or relatively amazing. And then everybody will say, oh, this guy, he created this. He knows JavaScript. Yep. If you will sit on your ass, nothing gonna happen. You wouldn't learn how to do 100 push-ups by reading the internet. You wouldn't become famous by just dreaming about being famous. Learn SVG. This is the key to fame and eternity. Do it today, not tomorrow. Tomorrow too late. Thank you.